So, if you don't mind, I'll run with my article here first.
Please.
Yeah, I ran into this article. The
Well, the article comes from Salon, and it's by
yeah,
Igor Jirish.
I don't know how I don't know how I feel about that. But the
Ho,
title is
ho.
basically, yeah, IRS. There's been a lot of cuts to the IRS, and because of that, it's been limiting their ability to do things. And according to this article, it seems that in their limiting of things, they are severely stepping down auditing of the haves. And I don't even want to say stepping up the auditing of the have-nots, but maybe just continuing the have-not auditing, and just because they're getting cutting it where, at least from what this thing says. And
That's where I'll disagree with you. I think they are stepping up audits of the poor.
I sure fucking hope not. I sure fucking hope not.
Well, let's look at it from a practical perspective, right? So according to this article,
Yeah.
GOP budget cuts have put the IRS in a situation that it cannot handle what it should be handling. And specifically, when I read the article, what I read is because they don't have the budget to pay enough people. When you go after a wealthy individual or when you go after a corporation, when it comes to taxes, you better damn well sure you have lawyers and you have all of your T's crossed and your I's dotted. Otherwise, that person or that corporation's lawyers are going to tear you apart. And now you've wasted all that time, money, and effort for what? For nothing, because you lost in court, right?
Correct.
Now, what's the difference between them and poor people? Well, poor people get a letter in the mail. It's a red letter, and it probably says something to the effect of you owe $10,000, and poor people shit their pants, and they call the IRS, and then the IRS refers them to some third-party agency to collect on this, right? Or the third-party agency is the one sending this bill. The point here is that unless you give the IRS enough money to fight these battles in court, the natural inclination is for them to go after easy money. And what does that mean? That means scaring poorer people into settling for, and you see these commercials on TV and on the radio all the time. Do you owe $45,000? Well, you could pay $5,000 and get out of it. Why? Because it's easy for the IRS to get the $5,000 than it would be for the $45,000, and it's even easier than to get the $1 million from some corporation. That's what I read.
Yep. And there's a couple things there. So one, I wrote up a lot of points about this article, and one of them was, I said it's easier to audit and come after simpler tax returns, like poor people's, right? Yep. Like, so, and I quoted the article here, literally from the article. Corporations and billionaires have been the biggest beneficiaries of the IRS cuts because large-scale audits require specialized personnel. Noting that the federal government has left 18 to 20% of potential tax revenues uncollected as a result. So, like, yeah, if it's a big corporation, if it's something that's a lot more complicated, that takes a lot more investment. That's not as easy to do. So if you have a lot of cuts to specialized personnel and stuff like that, it's over. So it's just not helpful.
Honestly, this is the same complaint I've had about the SEC. You had the market crash in 2008, and the question is in 2008 and before then, right? From 2000 to 2008, what was the SEC doing?
I don't know.
Let's look at it from
as hell wasted our taxpayer money by doing nothing.
Well, let me argue a point here, right? If you, as the SEC, have to monitor AIG, for example, the largest insurance company in the world, what do you think their books look like?
Complicated? I don't
they
know.
have to be massive.
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
Spreadsheets massive, that run for fucking days, right?
Right.
There's no way in hell, with a budget the size of the SEC, could they actually do an appropriate audit on AIG, right? And it's the same thing for the IRS. If you don't have the resources, if you don't have the people or the money, you can't do an appropriate audit on the people that probably should be the ones you're auditing, right?
Right.
It's tough because the IRS, at the end of the day, they've got to go back to Congress and say, okay, we got this much dollars, and this is what we got for you.
We also have certain, and I'm not going to name factions because things change and whatever, and that's fine. But we also have certain factions of this country on certain sides of the debate who are like law and order, except when it comes to paying taxes. Look, if you want to have a debate over the tax law and you want to change the tax law and you want to run for office and do that, then please do so. But if it is written on the books a certain way, you should be fucking paying your taxes, because even the poorest among us has to. So you better too. Like, from the poorest to the richest in this country, pay the taxes that are on the books. If you don't like the taxes on the books, then go ahead and try to affect change. Okay.
Well, I
But
think
otherwise, you better be paying exactly what you're supposed to, because I do. I file. I pay, I mean, I get a return still. There's a lot of us that may, but they're just whatever, just follow the law. So stupid. You don't like it, then go change it. But
yeah,
just makes me upset, and it makes me upset when I see that, like, the federal government should. I don't want the federal government should have enough leeway to say, like, to do the exact job we need to do in collecting all the taxes we need X amount of people. Then we should hire that X amount. It shouldn't be like, this year we're only going to fund the IRS to this extent, and we might miss out a lot of tax money because of that. Then why are we doing that? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Just frustrating. So
yeah, I hear you.
it's hard to strike that balance, by the way, before I let you go. It's hard to strike that balance, and I get that too. But I just wish we could get there. It's a fantasy, but
I would like to think that it's not a fantasy, but I definitely get where you're coming from when you say that.
yeah.
I do. At the end of the day, it's pretty cut and dry, right? If you want to go after people who are breaking the law, then you need the money, you need the resources, because the fact of the matter is they are big and they are powerful as well.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help when you have. I mean, weren't people making these allegations too a long time ago that the IRS was investigating certain 501c3s that were supporting like Republican causes and vice versa? Wasn't claims the other way as well at one point or another?
Mm-hmm.
Like audits were being done on like Tea Party candidates or people who were supporting Tea Party things.
Yeah, but look,
well, my point is,
I hate to almost be conservative with this. Hang on, just let me go for 1 second. I hate to almost be conservative with this argument. I don't even want to say conservative, but I hate to be this person to say this. But, like, if you weren't breaking the law, then should you be afraid of being under scrutiny? Like, come on.
I understand that, but
go ahead.
At the same time, I think that when politicians use the IRS as a tool in that manner,
I agree. That's gross.
I'll tell you what it is specifically. Is I have nothing to hide, but you're taking up my time and my resources and my energy over something that
I agree.
Audited. Why is it this sect of people, this group of people, this? You know what I mean?
Right. If there's anything past the balance that needs to be sought to be struck between having enough agents to collect what we should and wasting, then you'd think that there wouldn't be problems like, why are these all of a sudden just these conservative Tea Party movements getting so scrutinized, so basically, like, if we're spending more than we should to make sure they're all paying their taxes, because maybe a lot of them are paying already like they're supposed to, then yeah, like, that's stupid and that's wrong. And
the point here is, though, is that
it's difficult to be nonpartisan, though.
What I don't like it is. It is. What I don't like is that you're using the IRS as a political tool. The Democrats are doing, the Republicans are doing it, and it's difficult when you get a phone call from, and I'm just imagining this may have happened at one point, but you're the director of the IRS, right? You get a phone call from Senator so and so, who's like, "Listen, I know you guys are investigating this company or this person. Is there any way that we can back off a little bit on it? Otherwise, I'll bring XYZ bill to the floor, which will gut the shit out of the IRS." And they might have some actual political power behind it. Now, you as the director of the IRS, trying to do what's in the best interest of your group, has to make a difficult decision there, right? That may have happened at one point, whether it was now or yesterday or 50 years ago or whatever. When you put people in those type of positions, that they have to make a choice of how they're going to run their agency based on partisan politics, this is what we end up with, to your point, and it's garbage. It's garbage across the board. And that's the feeling that I get is, well, we'll just cut your budget then. Fuck you. It's inappropriate, quite frankly, if you ask me. That
it is.
That they can play this game, right?
That's why everybody always wishes there's a neutral,
right?
Fully
but at the same time,
to step in and go ahead.
Right. At the same time, I think also what's
The government.
difficult is, to your point, what you're saying is if you break the law, you should pay for it, right?
Correct.
Let's talk about police officers, right? Are they going to uh, pull over everybody with, with a doobie and arrest them for it? No, that would be a waste of time and
No,
resources,
but we
right?
can't talk about the
Well,
scale. Oh, sure.
there is a scale here. There's a
Of
one-to-one
course.
comparison to me,
Of course
right?
there's a scale.
Are you gonna pull over
And
that person and throw them in jail? Some cops might, but at the same time, a lot of
for
cops
a
won't.
tail
It's
light
just a
out,
waste of
no.
resource.
You literally can't throw someone in jail for a tail light out. Stop. You can pull someone over with a tail light out and
I
then
said a
find something to
doobie.
put them
That's
in jail
drugs.
for. Oh, I hope you can't put people in jail for a doobie anymore. No, in New York it's decriminalized. In most of the country it's I hope. But I get your point.
Okay,
I see your point.
I
My
was
bad. I
making.
see your point.
Let me finish my point. Right?
Sure.
Are you gonna go after the kid who's smoking a doobie, or are you gonna go after the person dealing hundreds of thousands of pounds of this shit?
Right.
And when you
Well,
do
that kind of
that,
proves the
there's a
point where the
lot more
IRS should be
time and
focused.
resource. That's where I'm getting.
Right.
That's where
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
getting. This
Right.
is that
Right.
why is it that you're caring so much about people who barely make
Right.
$40,000 a year, or whatever the number is.
And that was my base point and thought when reading this. So
Mhm.
yes.
And that's the comparison that I would draw, because some people might argue, well, Cyril, you're asking that everyone who breaks the law is punished, and that's just not possible. That's not always
And
possible.
that's fine.
And in defense of
But
that, I would say what I just said.
right. There's that defense. There's also another defense. There's like the idea that, and this kind of links with yours, the idea that like there's a especially when it comes to like economics, like are you going to punish people who can barely afford to live economically? That doesn't make any sense. If they need to be punished, like they're already fucking struggling. Like what are you doing when you're, like if you're going to go after them for their money, like that just doesn't make sense. Just doesn't make sense. You're going after people who don't have that much capital and the punishment's going to be taking their capital. It's like, what? Like, okay. So it's just a lot of confusion. And I would hope that they work from, I don't even want to say that from the top down, because that sounds divisive, but everybody knows what I mean. Like those of us that are privileged, and a lot of us work towards being that way, and that's fine. And people earn that, and that's fine. Okay. But that doesn't mean you can't be under scrutiny, and make sure that you're, paying your fair share, because we all have to. So that's all.
I hear you.